What are your thoughts on this, Dai Davies? Many out there in the public feel that the police are focused on the wrong things at the moment.
Well, I tend to agree. There's been a 3-year review by an eminent individual. It started in 2019 and it's just reported with 56 recommendations. I think at senior level, there's a recognition that the police throughout the country are losing, to some extent, the confidence of the men and women that we're meant to serve. I agree with Colin. The front end, many of them are exceptionally brave, and they just want to get on and do the job. But, you know, the last Royal Commission was in 1960. I think this, and if you go through the recommendations, there are 56 from memory, and one of the key ones is crime prevention. The other one is to protect the vulnerable. And a lot of people talk about this, but I don't see a huge sign in forces taking this on board, particularly in domestic violence and attacks against women. There is a dreadful record of failure in terms of rape, in terms of domestic violence and other sexual offences, mostly against women. And if I was a chief constable, that would be my priority, and we're not putting it at the level it should be. But it's not just the police. It's the CPS, it's the crime commissioners, that other load of nonsense that was brought on by this government, along with getting rid of very, very experienced officers. And what you often have on the front line are very inexperienced officers, led sometimes by sergeants and inspectors who themselves are not particularly, as it were, professional, because they haven't had the training or the time on the streets. You know, I had 12 or 13 years before I was an inspector, and so on and so forth. You knew your job because you stayed on the streets and you policed the streets, and that's where you need proper coppering.
And Dai Davies, what are your thoughts about the policing of so-called hate crimes, such as an offensive Facebook post or tweet?
Well, it would have to take its priority along with others, including stabbings, violent attacks against men and women, and as I say, violence against women in every shape and form. That's the one area, you know, half this nation are women. And if we can't look after our women as men, and I'm sorry if that sounds sexist, there's something wrong with us as policemen and women. They have to have priority. So do the courts. I'm fed up with hearing lessons have been learned when I hear of child abuse. And I was an ambassador for a child protection unit for many, many years. I'm fed up of hearing we've learned lessons. And I'm fed up of chief constables telling me, like the Greater Manchester, the scandal there is appalling. And yet what we do, we give knighthoods to these chief constables. We give them all kinds of medals. If they were running an organisation, they would be sacked because their performance is so appallingly poor. Not in all cases, but in many cases.